Screen appears with the video's title listed as Validation Demo. The date is March 3, 2023, and the time is 2:08 p.m. The organizer and recorder of the following screen captured video is listed as Brendan Martin, ACF, CTR.
Administrator, I want to give you a very short demo of probably the single most important tool you can use to build a good XML file. That is, namely, validating your XML against the schema we provide. First of all, I'm hoping you know what a schema is and where to find it. If you go to the AFCARS Technical Bulletins page, go to Technical Bulletin number 21.
The webpage for AFCAR's Technical Assistance of the Office of Child Support Enforcement site appears. The Technical Bulletin number 21 XML file structure and encryption webpage appears, which lists available files to click and download.
And it will offer you a download of the schema, XSD schema definition. That is a zip file, and you'll need to download it, unzip it, and then get the .xsd file, which is a schema. Here's what a schema looks like.
Schema appears on screen as a document with an extensive XML code.
You're probably already familiar with it, hopefully. A schema is XML of a kind that actually describes the requirements for building an XML file of that type. You're familiar by now with sample XML that we've provided, hopefully.
User clicks and opens a second tab of the schema that shows another lengthy XML code and scrolls up.
And you'll see that the top level element is called ACF data. That ACF is known as a namespace. It's essentially describing this as an ACF type of document.
User hovers over 3 lines with URL links at the top of the code.
And don't be confused by the URLs. The software here is not actually going out to the website to get anything. It's a namespace has the requirement of being in URL form for historical reasons. What I want to show you what to add to your XML is this line here, which points to a local copy of your schema. So this schema location line.
User hovers over the schema location line, which contains the third and final URL in the document and reads xsi:schema location open quote http www.acf.hhs.gov schema_00h.xsd in full.
Is telling you for anything belonging to the http www.acf.hhs.gov namespace, use the schema OOH_XSD to validate that data. This schema OHD can be, you can name your schema when you download it from the website, you can name it whatever you want. You can put it wherever you want. In this case, since you don't see a path before the name,
user highlights schema_OOH.XSD in the line.
It means this local copy of the schema is in the same directory as the XML. If you wanted to put it in a different directory, you would.
User types /directory/ directly before schema.
You would put it, you would path it. So again, I want to just point to, don't be confused by this stuff at the top. It's conceptually a little tricky to understand what a namespace is, but this line here, the first line is saying.
User highlights the first line of the document reading ACF: data XMINS: AFF open quote http www.acf.hhs.gov close quote.
It's defining the ACF namespace, this attribute XMLNS: ACF equals this URL. That is saying we are declaring a namespace called ACF, and its value is that URL. Once again, it's confusing because it looks like you're going to the web to get the schema, but it's actually not the case. The other thing I need to show you here is that, well, you're seeing it on screen actually, is that you need a decent XML editor to view XML to edit it, to use the indentation, the colors, etc. This one you see on the screen right now is Notepad++. I actually prefer this one over here.
User switches to the Visual Studio Code tab, which has a black background and contains the XML code.
Which is called Visual Studio Code. Both of these you can download from the web. They're free, open source. And
User highlights the following line of code. Left angle bracket E4 underscore child underscore record underscore number dot UAT082022 -01 left angle bracket / E4 underscore child underscore record underscore number right angle bracket.
so I'm gonna demonstrate how to perform validation in this Visual Studio Code one.
User clicks on the schema location line.
In order to implement a schema, here's that line again where you point to the schema and say validate everything in the ACF namespace using this schema. You need to get it to do its magic. You need to get what's called a plugin for this software. I honestly don't remember how to do that. You Google plugin, validation plugin for Visual Studio Code or whatever editor you're using, and it'll instruct you how to get that. That's the software that actually performs the schema validation when you insert the line telling the editor where to find the schema. And again, as I showed you a moment ago, the schema location, we've specified that a local copy of the schema called schema OOH_XSD.
User highlights schema underscore OOH.XSD in the line.
OOH being out of home care, is going to be used to validate anything in this namespace.
User clicks on the first line of the document reading ACF::data XMINS: AFF equal open quote http: www.acf.hhs.gov close quote.
Which is, again, it's a URL, but it's really a namespace, and that namespace is the ACF namespace. So you can see the top level of your data is qualified as ACF::data. It's data. It's a data element of type ACF. One of the reasons for namespaces is that different kinds of XML, different files might use the same name for something, and to distinguish between, the ACF's data element and other possible data elements, you want to use that qualifier namespace. Anyway, when you have the plugin and when you have the schema specified and the schema is really there where it says it is and the schema is valid, you'll be able to perform validation. And I have a simple example here as I put in an invalid value in the date of birth. Let me just show you. The schema itself is enforces valid values way down at the bottom. This is very kind of cryptic to read, but if you look at these, you can kind of glean that they're saying you need to have 4 characters, you need 4 digits, etc. This very cryptic notation is called a regular expression.
User highlights the following line of code. Left angle bracket XS: pattern space value equals open quote \D open parentheses 6 close parentheses vertical slash \S open parentheses 0 close parentheses end quote.
It's notation that's common to many programming languages, and it tells you how to parse a string of characters. So those values are enforced by the schema, and if we go back to the other editor, you'll see that
user switches back to the Visual Studio Code tab.
For date of birth, you need an 8-digit field. Invalid value is clearly invalid.
User clicks on invalid value text in the date of birth code line, and error messages appear.
And when you have the plugin installed in your editor, and you're pointing to the schema, you'll see how very legible and descriptive the validation errors are. They're also very visible. You get a red squiggly line under everything that's invalid. So this is clearly an invalid value. If I make it a valid value,
User deletes invalid value text and types in 20220801 in its place.
you will no longer see validation errors. Likewise, if you have misnamed tags, you're going to see validation complaints. You'll even have possible ways of fixing the problem simply by clicking the quick fix, etc. So that's about it. I don't have anything more to show you. This is what you're going to need to debug your own XML extracts. So enjoy it. Thank you.